Hello and welcome to a video in which I'm very happy to present to you the not qvca module from Wonkystuff. So as you can see in my system, I have all three modules from Wonkystuff, who is the very first third-party manufacturer of modules for the AE Modular system. And so far, I'm incredibly happy with these modules. They're really useful and awesome. And the newest module in that series is the qvca or the not qvca module from Wonkystuff. So this module is a voltage controlled amplifier. So it's very similar to the 2VCA module that we have here. But the difference is that, as you can see, it has no controls. So in this case, it is only for audio signals, whereas the 2VCA from tangible waves can be switched into audio or DC mode. And also, it does not have a knob that modulates the amount of amplification, but also it has 4 inputs. So it is actually 4 VCAs in one module. So in fact, if you don't ever use these controls and you only ever use audio, then this one little module can replace these 2 modules in your rack, which is really cool. So you have here the inputs for the CVs at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have the inputs for the audio signals at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a little bit different from the module from tangible waves, where you have the input and the CV right next to each other, and in2 and CV right next to each other. The really cool thing about this module, however, is that you have at the right-hand side, you have the output 1, 2, 3, 4 at the bottom, which is the audio signal, so the amplified signal. And then at the top, the 1, 2, 3, 4 is the inverted CV signal. So if you have a +5 here, you get a 0 volt out, and the other way around. So this is really cool, because this replaces another module that you might have in your system, which is all the way down here. The 2@CV module has an inverse output. So in order to do the same thing that the qvca does in one module with the original modules from tangible waves, you would need the 2@CV module and a 2VCA module, and then you would only have 2 channels, so you need 2 of those, so 4 modules altogether, and the Wonkystuff module is only one unit module, which is really cool. So now I want to show you a little patch that I've thought of that really nicely combines the inversion and the VCA section of this module, and this is panning left to right. So this was really, it was possible, but as you saw, you would need 2 modules or even 4 modules for that. And in this case, you have only 1. And I'll show you how that works. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get an audio signal into the module. So let's take something, let's say from the wavetables module, and I put this into the audio channel number 1 right here. And then I want to take an LFO, for instance, for the panning. So I'm taking that into the CV section number 1 here, and I'm just taking an LFO. So this is one of the older ones. So let's take that, make that a little bit slower. So this is a nice triangle VCO here that will then modulate the oscillator signal. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take the channel number 1 and put that into my output channel at the top here and to the left channel. And then I want to take channel number 2. Actually, that's the left channel, and channel number 2 I want to put into the right channel. So how do we get the second channel though? And this is very easy. We're taking the negative output or the inverted output and sticking that into the channel number 2, CV number 2 here. But there is no input on the second channel, so I just use the output of the wavetables into the second. So now you have a really nice panning. So just to explain that again, so I take the output of the wavetables, I take that into channel 1 and channel 2, which is the left and the right channels for my ears. And I'm taking the output of number 1 and number 2 directly into my 4IO here, which goes straight to my audio interface into the left and right channel. Then I'm fading the left channel straight from an LFO here and onto the left channel, and the right channel gets the inverted LFO. So whenever the left channel goes up, the right channel goes down, and the other way around. And this is how you can make a automated panning, which is really nice. So one problem with this is, as you can hear, it's panning really hard to the left and to the right, which means that when it's all the way to the left, you hear nothing on the right ear. And that is not really very nice for our ears. So what we really want to do actually is we want to control the amount of panning. And the best way to do that is with another module called the 2CV tool here. And what I'm doing is I take the output of my LFO and I put this into the CV tool in the in, and then I'm taking the output of the CV tool and sticking that into the CV channel number 1 on the qvca. And the CV tool gives me an offset as a center, and then I can select how much deviation I have to the left and to the right of it. So if I have the offset and the level at 12 o'clock, I have no panning. And if I turn it just slightly, maybe a quarter, you can hear that it's moving only slightly to the left and to the right, but there's always something on the other ear to hear as well, which is much nicer feeling for our ears. So you saw that I increased the rate on the LFO. Now we can do some really nice things like that Leslie speaker effect, for instance. So as you can see with the offset here, I can control the depth of the oscillation. So obviously I always want to hear the extremes of things. So what happens if I put the LFO to fast and have it really, really fast. Let's listen to that. So there you go, the qvca from Wonkystuff. So next up is a little track that I made with a shifting sequences that go from left to right and back again, and crossfading and all kinds of neat stuff. I hope that you will stick around for that, and I hope that you enjoy that. At the end, I will explain how that track, that patch works. I hope you enjoy the next section. So in this patch that we just heard, you heard a shifting sequence going from the left ear to the right ear, and then another shifting sequence going the other way. And this panning was, of course, done with the qvca module, as I've explained earlier. There's an LFO going in, panning it to one ear, and then the inverse of that, taking that same signal and panning it to the right ear. And I'm doing this for two different oscillators. So here we have the wavetable, that is the first sequence, and then I have the sawvox being the second sequence that is going cross-fading. Then, just to make things interesting, I have various other things. For instance, I have the MS-20 filter in self-oscillation mode as my kick drum. So that is the bass drum that I can dial in. And then in the end, I have just another dual oscillator here with just so slightly offset oscillators going through the SV filter and adding that rhythm at the end. Now the sequence for all of this is coming from the RBSS module, which is the random bit shift sequencer, which is a really nice module for evolving and random sequences. The output of that is going through a CV tool down here, so I'm limiting the number of notes that we're getting, so they're not too high, not too low. I'm also using the CV tool, by the way, to limit the amount of panning, so you're not going completely no sound on one ear and completely loud on the other, but kind of a little bit in between, so the output of the panning LFO is going through the CV tool first. So I'm getting a variation of the panning, at least for the first oscillator. Everything goes through the quantizer here, so that's how I'm getting a minor scale notes. And the rhythm that's going through the SV filter is going through the delay. The problem that I have with stereo performances where I have a panning from left to right is that I can't use my multi-FX module for that, because the multi-FX module only has a mono input and a stereo out. But to do the panning, I need to have the stereo left and right channels going directly to my output, to my audio interface up here. So I can't use the multi-FX module in this patch, which is a real shame. But there are modules now in the shop. So the new mixer module, for instance, will allow that you can patch in the multi-FX as a send effect. And that will enable you to do something like this with the panning in the qvca module and still use the multi-FX for that. So that will be really interesting to see how we can use that later on. So I hope you enjoyed that little patch, and I hope that you consider getting that qvca module, because it is really, really useful for all kinds of things. Do get it. It replaces two VCAs because it has 4 inputs, and the inverter function is really, really helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this.